Hello and welcome to another video. So I wanted to test out a Earth Rune / Burn Rune sort of style deck, and one that I found piqued my interest a little bit. I did make a few small adjustments to the original deck list, so it is fairly original for the most part, but it's definitely an okay deck. I like the Mysterium Founders going off quite effectively. This obviously isn't a pure Mysteria deck, it is more focused on the burn damage side of the deck instead of going for a full Mysteria build, as currently I just don't have the golds or the vials to get some of the cards that I really need to fill these decks out, but hopefully in the coming weeks we'll have a lot more variations on decks. But for now, Vespa, of course, as a two of, as I do have two, and they work amazingly in this kind of deck. I am running a single Proto Bahamut because it does work as a nice clear and effective damage when you do have those Mysterias, and a lot of people don't expect a Proto Bahamut in Rune. It's just a really nice card to run. Everything else is pretty okay. I mean, most things generate burn damage in some way or form. I'm not really sure about Abomination personally, just because I don't tend to be drawing enough cards that Abomination can be relevant. So it's definitely a card I'm thinking of dropping, although as a 3-drop 6/6 with an evo on turn 4 and allowing you to play other cards, it actually isn't half bad, so it's definitely one of those cards you've just got to decide how you want to play it. Otherwise, yeah, everything else focused on burn, a little bit of healing with Cagliostro, which helps a little bit here and there, and things like Chain Lightning just allow you to do a lot of potential damage, and I am running one Staff of Whirlwinds just as some extra damage, although I would consider Nova Flare instead, because I think that might be an overall better card, because it can get more face damage. So we're going to get right into it and check it out. And our first game is against Dragon. Not a huge shocker, Dragon is still quite a powerful deck at the moment, especially with Poseidon. So it honestly doesn't really surprise me at all. So we decide to drop a card. Going for the Silent Laboratory is actually really good. Being able to get a 2-drop and an Earth Sigil. I have found that I have to be a little careful. I'm thinking maybe running a Silverblade Golem might be handy, because sometimes these Earth Sigils just don't work out. So maybe a single Silverblade Golem could help out. But Vesper Witch Hunter is pretty perfect for this deck. I am planning a better Earth Rune deck that'll be more focused on the Earth Rune style over any kind of burn style, but that'll be a future video for you guys. So these are very average cards overall that the Dragon player's playing, mostly expected. We're kind of just going out with what we can now. We don't really have any reason not to. They have ramped ahead of us, which is a little annoying though, so it's a little disappointing. Plus, a lot of people are taking the Roy and going Dragon Life Blade these days, so that's pretty predictable play. And we do end up getting the Staff of Whirlwinds. I do end up wasting the Grand Spire though, as I just want the extra damage. I also always forget the Grand Spire actually does face damage, something to always keep in mind when you're running Mysteria, as face damage is very important. And we get a nice chance to drop our Mysteria. Usually I can always get 2 Mysteria down in a game. That seems to be the most common feature I get down. Is this deck the most effective right now? Probably not. Does it need some refinement? Definitely. It's just something that I thought was an interesting thing to try out. So we go for the double Mysteria. A quick Evo will clear this 5-1, and we shouldn't have to deal with too much else there. Then it's just a matter of us belting out spells until our opponent gives up the game, which is not a bad spot for us to be in. So Blazing Breath, Dragon Summoner, and Aistraha. Great. Mines is a little bit of a hard one. Not always the card you want to deal with. Quick Wizard of Oz though is going to give us some access. So we can go for quite a bit of face damage. We don't have any spells that are really a problem because Chain Lightning is pretty much gone anyway, thanks to having too many cards in hand. But we're not too worried about that, as we've secured a nice board. We've still got Proto Bahamut, Vespa. They're both going to be pretty solid. We've also got the Mysterian Wiremist, which is pretty good amount of damage. Especially if it is used next turn. Turn 8. So you always want to go for Black Worm 90% of the time. That way you can quite easily go for the Mysterian Missile. I did decide to favour just going for the Vespa there to get the Earth Sigil out, but I probably should have played the Mysterian Missile instead. Unfortunately, Proto Baha on his own isn't going to quite give us enough reach. Cagliostro though will set up lethal. The only problem is we are on 1 health, which is a huge downfall for us. So I decided to get at least a little bit back, even if it is just one. Luckily, that was a normal Zoe. If it was any other kind of Zoe, I would have been in trouble. And the Frenzied Drake doesn't give them lethal, so our Mysterian Missile and Arms of Angus is going to easily close this. Although Chain Lightning also would have closed this game for us very comfortably. And our next matchup is against Forest. Forest is just one of those decks. It's just always one I don't enjoy bursting, and I usually don't enjoy playing, which is fairly disappointing. Hopefully one day they'll bring a completely new archetype to Forest, as I feel outside of Beauty and the Beast and more mid to aggro range forests, we really don't have that much variation on really intricate forest decks. Like, you look at decks like Rune or Blood, and they're very defined playstyles for a lot of the decks. And really core focuses. I just always find Forest plays very similar card lineup with just a couple of adjustments based on what you're playing, which is a little sad. So Carl, not a bad way to start things off. He's got a nice solid body on him. It looks like they are just going to throw out a couple of 1/1s that we have to deal with. A little disappointing. At least we can go for the Magic Missile, and locally we also draw Vespa, so that works in our favour a little bit, giving us a little bit of healing. And we are set up for a turn 5 Mysteria. Of course, the Starry Elf is going to pretty much tank my 2/1 here. A little disappointing.
Are you defying me?
But we really don't have a much better play than to get Mysteria out. Especially when it's an animated Mysteria. Which I'm lucky enough to have 2 of. Really happy that I end up getting those as really nice draws early on. So Brambles, probably the second most hated card ever. Brambles is super irritating. It just gives every forest card on board absolute massive amounts of value. There we go, Cagliostra. So we can remove the 3/3. Limit as much damage as we can. We've got an okay board, but I mean, we need some way to trigger these Earth Sigils. That's always the problem I've been having, getting them to trigger. We're also lacking a lot of burn damage yet, as it's just not something we've managed to put out. So I used the Arms Manga just to remove the 3/3. I really wanted to limit as much damage as I could now. We've got our 4/4 on, which means they're going to have to use something to get rid of it. And right now we're sitting reasonably well with our hand. We've got the Mysterian Worm, we've also got the Mysterian Knowledge. We do draw a second Mysterian Knowledge, which gives us some absolutely massive value. So we can actually go for a comfortable 3 damage just for playing these 1-drops, along with getting our extra cards. Greenland Axeman, definitely the card you don't want to see, as it does have to be dealt with. Luckily, our Mysterian Missiles will do a nice job of cleaning that up thanks to our boosts. And we're actually going to be able to get 9 damage just off these 2 Mysterian Missiles. If I had have actually noticed that, I would have noticed I could have Mysterian Missiled twice and then used a Chain Lightning to go for lethal. Unfortunately, I missed that, which is a little disappointing because obviously this put me in a very risky position. Because the double Mysterian Missile into Chain Lightning would have been a perfect lethal. So it's just not accounting for the extra damage from the Mysterian Missile is why I actually missed that play. Luckily for us, they didn't quite manage to kill us anyway, which allowed us to pretty easily go for lethal there. So this deck is definitely one that could do with a bit of work, probably just fine-tuning, getting enough cards up to the right amounts. Otherwise, I actually quite enjoyed playing the deck. It's definitely got some fun little combinations you can pull off, and having the nice spell damage boosts is great. I would love to get 3 Mysteria off, but I feel like that's always difficult. 2 is usually a comfy amount to really get some burn damage going, but otherwise just a fun little deck to give a go. So if you are interested, the deck list will be in the description below. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.